So, I used to work for my grandparents on an oil farm in Texas. I was 17, freshly graduated from high school, and had moved from the Midwest to Texas to live with my grandparents and work on the oil farm they worked for doing some easy data entry. The building was essentially a thin building on the job site where my grandma and I, the only two office workers besides my grandfather who was the foreman, worked. Basically when the new hires would come in that had missed the initial hiring round, I was the one that would make sure all their paperwork was in order and that they had all of their OSHA classes finished, and if any safety training hadn't been done I would just put in the VHS and confirm on a written copy that they had finished it under my instruction. This went on for 2 months with no issue until one fateful day, a regular Florida man, record and all, came in as a new hire and came to my office to finish his new hire paperwork. Once he was in my office I found he had no safety training to speak of and I informed him his next day or two would be spent in my office watching safety videos. All of this was paid of course. He immediately flew into a rage, screaming about how he wouldn't have some little girl teaching him how to do his job, which again I was a 17-year-old female, at the time, I now identify as non-binary, and was only going through company standards and OSHA rules with him. I went to my grandfather who was my boss at the time, obviously very confused and uncomfortable and unsure of how I should proceed. To which my grandfather said, "You wanna fire him?" Cue my excitement. My grandfather follows me to my office and I, as a 17-year-old, get to fire this grown-ass man sitting in front of me. I start directing him to gather his things and leave and he starts up a huge fit, yelling and cursing at me. Before he noticed my grandfather standing in the door with his gun holstered on his hip. My grandfather usually kept this locked in a safe on the ground or in his truck. I hadn't realized until after he'd pulled it out just for me, and very quietly then he got up and left. The most satisfying moment of my life. Edit, changed Q to Q, sorry y'all I wrote this drunk at 3 a.m. Edit, enough with the transphobia please, obviously gender has a lot to do with this story so I just wanted to include that I identify differently now. My mom helped me set up my account when I was in high school, and she was an authorized user on it. She never accessed it, so I forgot. It's 10 years later now, my account is the same. I moved back home temporarily and have mostly been going about my adult life as normal as possible. I went to Planned Parenthood for some routine STD tests, and since I don't have insurance here, I paid on my card. I got home before my mom did so I was just chilling. She gets home and is making small talk, asked what I bought today. I look confused, said I didn't go to the store. She says well where did you go? I say nowhere. She says why are you lying? And I'm like what do you mean? Now, I have no reason to lie about going to PP because I'm an adult, but it's personal, you know? She says she gets a text alert for every transaction I make over 100. And I'm like WTF? Since always? Yes. Now I'm clammy and my brain is running a million miles an hour thinking of all the purchases I've ever made over that amount. At dispensaries, the liquor store, concerts, on Adam and Eve. She's casual about it, like yeah, you spent $150 at the shoe store last week. I hate this and she can tell, so she asks where I went again because she can see that the transaction and phone number attached is for city name family planning. So I just told her and she looked disgusted and I can't wait for the bank to be open tomorrow so I can remove her from the account. DLDR. Paid out of pocket at Planned Parenthood for STD tests not knowing my mom gets a detailed text alert for every transaction I make over 100. I woke up this morning with a horrendous itching and burning sensation over half my body. When I scratched my back, huge flakes and chunks of skin peeled off. I was in an absolute panic. Nothing like this had ever happened to me before. I rushed downstairs a blubbering mess, telling my wife I needed to get to the ER right away. I told her I had apparently contracted some horrible disease and all my skin was peeling off. My wife calmed me down and asked to look. Then she started giggling. Then laughing. Then howling hysterically. It's a sunburn. In 32 years, I've never been burned before. My dad is a colored South African, so I'm mixed race and have his same complexion. We don't ever burn, just get darker and darker and darker. Until today apparently. My wife is now teaching me the ways of paler people and the wonders of aloe. DLDR, never been sunburned before, thought I had a disease. This happened just a few days ago. I worked nights at a very large gas station. About 4 a.m. I was rushing to try to finish a cleaning task, when my coworker called out to look at my register. All of the gas pump indicators were flashing, because the pumps had been shut off. None of us had shut them down. So we were just about to call for the manager when an older gentleman came rushing in. Hey, I pulled up to get some gas, and the pump was spewing gas everywhere, so I hit the emergency shut-off switch. Oh. Holy cow. 2 weeks ago a car with an electrical problem caught fire in the parking lot, not actually at a pump, thank goodness, and customers couldn't understand why they weren't being allowed to pump gas. This guy noticed the button, read the sign, and actually pushed it when needed. And came in to let us know. I'm really glad he was there. It might have been much longer before the leak was discovered. It's an environmental hazard and has to be cleaned a specific way. I estimate that no more than a gallon was spilled. No idea what caused it. I'm just a cashier, so someone else dealt with that. It was fixed within the hour, though. The gentleman is a regular, and very nice. I hope management thanked him somehow. So this happened a couple years ago when I was 13 and my brother was 11. My parents had to go out and thought it would be better to leave me and my brother home alone, so that's what they did. They left, taking my little sister, age 6, with them. Me and my brother were all the way down in our basement, which is where we had our video games set up, so the two of us were just downstairs playing Mario Kart on our Wii. We had the home phone in between us just in case one of our parents called. About an hour goes by, and the phone starts to ring. We look down and the caller ID, and it's our uncle. We decide to just let it ring, and how our phone worked, it would ring about 5 times then stop. 1 ring, 2 ring, 3 ring. The phone stops ringing. My brother doesn't pay attention to it, but I do. I realize that the only reason for it to stop that early if someone picked up and we were home alone. I get really suspicious and my paranoia gets the better of me, and I take my brother and we go upstairs, see that the phone is still there, but there is still a phone on the 3rd floor in my parents' room, so we go towards the stairs, and what we saw chilled us to the bone. A man late 40s early 50s is all I can really tell you, because the second we saw him, me and my brother scream, run out our front and go straight to our neighbor's house. We tell them what happened. They proceed to call the police, then our parents. They come fast, and I don't know what was wrong with the man, but he never left the house. He just stood there and the police arrested him. From what I heard, he was placed in a mental hospital, but that's just what I heard. This story may not be totally crazy compared to others, but I just think what could have happened to me and my brother if my uncle didn't decide to call. Had a patient call very upset that we shorted her 2 insulin boxes, 10 pens. I explained to her that the quantity on the label is the millimeters and that there's 3 milliliters in each pen. 5 pens multiplied by 3 milliliters is 15. She just was not getting it. Well, the doctor wrote it for 3 boxes. I explained to her I did see in the past where there was a prescription for 3 boxes, but there weren't any refills on that one, and that this current prescription was only written for 1 box. But it says 15 pens. And here we go again. She also mentioned how she was upset that we never let her know that her prescription was ready, so I offered to look at her notification preferences. I don't want automated calls or anything. That's annoying. You knew I was waiting on this prescription. You should have called me. I explained that no, in fact, I didn't know she was waiting on this prescription, and that I take care of hundreds of people every day who are waiting on prescriptions just like her, and that it would be physically impossible and very unreasonable to expect us to call every single person when their prescription is ready. Well, that's not what I'm asking you to do. You should have known I was waiting and called me. Well, I knew I was getting nowhere, so I apologized and told her that next month to let us know she wants a 90-day supply so we can fill it for 90 days. Well, I'm telling you now. Sigh. I told her she has to tell us next month. She just didn't get that she isn't the only person I see, and there's no way I would remember in a month. She's gonna fill out a survey about how disappointed she is. Oh well, woman shrugging. I posted this over in entitled people and was told that it may also belong in this sub. I'm new to this, English is my only language, and I'm on mobile. This happened to me yesterday when I was at work at my security job. No ma'am, I'm not a valet. I'm new to this, so I hope I do this right. Story: okay, this just happened to me yesterday. I work as security at one of our gated communities here in Florida on the beach. My duties include watching over the pool via camera, answering the phone, and checking visitors and contractors into the community. Our uniforms consist of black or gray pants, and white shirts, but I wear gray shirts because I'm the supervisor. There is nothing on my uniform that says valet. Well, yesterday I was in my office doing my work, and this lady comes in, and while I'm getting her information so I can make her permit, she says, "Okay, so you get my permit, and then you park the car?" I correct her and say, "No ma'am, I'm not a valet, I'm security. I only need to make you a permit, and once you get it you can park your car." And then I explain where to park. She then asks me why I can't park it for her and her friend that she was there to visit told her that I wasn't a valet and that we didn't have valet parking here. This lady then stated that I should do my job and park her car. I then told her that it's not my job and that she needed to move her car as a line was backed up. She got in her car and sped off and almost hit someone, so she ended up being asked to leave. Some people are just so ignorant and entitled, it's just scary. I'm working the overnight at a mid-size resort. It is approximately 3 a.m. and the inter-house phone rings. Guest, could you bring me a ladder? Me, I'm sorry, what? G, a ladder. My shoe is stuck in your tree. M, okay, I'm going to need some more details. What happened exactly? G, I'm up on the second floor of Building 7 and my wife was outside and needed a room key, so I threw one to her from the balcony. M, okay. G, but the key got stuck in the grass in the tree. He means the Spanish moss, so I threw my shoe to get the key down. But the shoe got stuck. M, did you get the key? G, yeah. But I need a ladder to get the shoe. I'm afraid if I throw the other one it will get stuck too. M, sir, as it is quite dark outside. I'm not going to send maintenance with a ladder at this time. That would be too dangerous. I will put in a request for once it is light out. G, but what if it rains in my shoe? M, no rain is expected. Have a good night and we'll call you in the morning. Click. So a customer said something to me last night that brought this to mind, and I thought I'd share. This happened about 3 years ago. I had just been moved to primary third shift at my store, and at the time there were only 2 white people working there, the manager and me. Okay, I'm more of a mutt than white, but I hadn't seen the sun for 2 months, so I was kind of pasty. And this wasn't racist hiring practice, this was a relatively accurate cross-section of our area. As part of my job, when a customer enters the store I have to call out, "Welcome to, company /." Also, employees wore, at the time, dress code has loosened a little bit. Company issued polo shirts and khaki pants with a name tag front and center on the shirt, where it can be easily read. This will be important later. The way my store is set up, there is a narrow strip of floor between the roller grill counter and the counter that the frozen drinks, soda fountain, and coffee machines are on. This is a strip of floor that always needs mopped, because customers tend to think that it's a shortcut and, somehow, always manage to spill drinks there. I was mopping this strip of floor, which meant I was hidden from the doors. A customer came in, on her cell phone, and I heard her laugh and say as she walked in, "I'm not racist." I pop up from mopping and chirp, I always try to sound happy, regardless of what I feel, "Welcome to, company /." Hold on, the woman said as she pulled the phone away from her face. She was black, she pointed to me. "What are you doing here?" Confused I said, "I work here. How may I help you?" "No," she told me firmly. "You're not allowed to work here." I was even more confused. Of course I was allowed to work there, I'd been hired by the company. "No, I really do work here." "No," she said again. "I was in here this morning and everyone who works here is black." "Oh," I said as enlightenment dawned. "I'm not always the sharpest tool in the shed. No, I work here. The only color, company /, cares about is money." "Oh no. No, this is not acceptable. I'm going to go fix this right now." She turned and left. I have no idea what she intended to do to fix it, but I never heard anything more about it. I got a call late last night from one of the resorts asking me if I had availability. I wish I had said no, but wanting to fill the last couple rooms I said I did. 20 minutes later a 60-year-old woman wearing jean shorts, cowboy boots and a tank top wandered in and said she was the one that was at the resort. She automatically told me that she was getting a divorce from her husband of 40 years and that he was messing with her credit cards. Big, hi, I'm a red flag. The credit card took the authorization. As I was making her keys, she was chatting up a guest who was wearing a mask. "You don't have to wear those here," she said, leaning in closely. "It's not required but recommended. But I respect your choice to do so." I could see how uncomfortable the guest was getting with 423. I gave her the keys and sent her far away. A little later 423 came down and was speaking with other guests. She'd tell them her life story or how the hotel is super nice. I felt sorry for them. She went back to her room and I didn't see much of her until I was in the middle of checking someone in. She was passing by a guest and she was apologizing. The guest began to shout to me about how rude she was, that she had interrupted a business meeting he was having. She apparently had told him that she wasn't going to wear a mask during the pandemic and that she thought it was silly that other people were. I asked 423 kindly to be respectful of other guests while she was here. I thought it would be a one-night thing, but she extended her stay. My GM was having an issue with 423's credit card. We had to force charges through. When I finally got her to update the card on file, she apologized and told me it was her husband's credit card. She came down a little later and said she was in guest laundry and made a fool of herself because she tried to insert her room key into laundry. It's coin operated. She said she didn't have coins. About an hour ago 423 came down and informed me she was afraid she had COVID. She went back up to her room. 5 minutes ago an ambulance rolled up to the property. They had gotten a rescue call from 423. Not only that, but 423 had posted to her Facebook that she was here and she had COVID. I've gotten several calls regarding this. What a weekend. Update. Apparently the hospital released her and she came back to the hotel. I was driving past the hotel this morning and saw 2 police cars. Got a text from my general manager saying, 423 is out of here. On the morning of March 22, 1975, 62-year-old Helen Tobolsky arrived at her job at Notre Dame College where she worked as a custodian. Helen punched her time card at 7 a.m. She gathered her cleaning materials, and filled a mop bucket with water before heading over to the campus aerospace engineering building. At 9 a.m. an engineering professor named Dr. Hugh Ackert entered the building. As he walked from the offices to the machine shop, he found Helen lying in a hallway in a pool of blood. She had been shot in the head. Written on a blackboard in the classroom across from Helen was a bizarre message. February 21, 1975, the day I died. An autopsy revealed that Helen had been shot at close range in her left ear with a small caliber gun. Helen's body was discovered at the north end of a hallway, while her mop bucket was found, unused, at the south end of the hallway. Both of the doors were locked Friday evening. However, they discovered the door near Helen's body had been forced open and a small window on the door was broken. Investigators speculate that Helen's killer was already inside of the building when Helen arrived at work that morning. Most of the cleaning staff normally did not arrive until 8 a.m., but Helen would always arrive early to earn overtime pay. They believe Helen may have surprised the possible burglar, and was shot in the process. However, the only thing that appeared to be missing was Helen's wallet that she kept inside of her purse. The building housed huge pieces of machinery and equipment, such as wind tunnels, that would be impossible to steal. The mysterious message on the blackboard was never officially confirmed to be Helen's handwriting, but police speculate that it's possible Helen was forced to write the message, and got confused about the date. They questioned students and staff, but no one took responsibility for the strange message. The police took the blackboard as evidence. Helen had no known enemies. Helen married her husband, John, in 1933. John suddenly passed away in 1962 and Helen never remarried. They had 2 children, one who passed away at the age of 2 in 1941. The same year John passed away, Helen began working as a custodian for Notre Dame. She worked there for 12 years, and according to her co-workers, enjoyed her job very much and was loved by all of the staff. This was the first homicide ever reported on the Notre Dame campus. A $5,000 reward was offered by the school for information about Helen's murder. Unfortunately no one came forward. Helen's case went cold, and remains unsolved 45 years later. Sources. Clippings. Helen's obituary. John's obituary. This is my mom's story, not mine. But it is the most petty revenge that I heard from someone I know. It was my mom's first job and she joined Secret Santa. She got a porcelain doll that was broken and re-glued by a colleague of hers. She said she really got mad about. What did she do? She waited for the whole year to get Secret Santa again. She asked everyone who was her colleague's Secret Santa so she could switch. When they exchanged gifts, her colleague opened her present and there it was, the broken porcelain doll. My mom waited for a year to give the crappy doll back. Look, I understand that it's late, and that you've been driving a long time, and that you're tired and you just want a room to sleep, but it's going to be a few short minutes more. I waited as long as I could, but at some point I have to run this process so the hotel can continue to do business on the following day. No, I can't just give you keys to an empty room and check you in later. It's company policy that a credit card has to be electronically captured for each and every reservation, and the authorization has to go through before I can issue any room keys. I don't care about the 4,578 hotels you've arrived at in the dead of night that checked you in before audit and made keys for you beforehand. Again, I have to capture a credit card, And checking in reservations that never show makes our occupancy levels inaccurate, so we don't do that here. I've worked at 4 different hotels, and we didn't do this at any of them. Really, it's going to be about 10 more minutes, or 600 seconds if that sounds better. I know your day has been long, but stop acting like you're Clark Griswold who drove all the way across the country only to find out that Wally World is closed. Okay, rant over. Thank you. It's been months and my teacher is under heat because the school is facing major electric bills. We forgot to turn it off and the AC has completely turned the room frigid. For background, we were just having a good time while we waited until the school closed, so we set the AC at max and played cards. They were chill at it as long as we remembered to turn off. And I'd like to say that we stayed because we were the in-charge cleaners. After a few months our teacher messaged our GC and sent us a video of her opening the door and boom. A thick smoke of uncollected cold air that was not opened for a few months was released. She also said that the metal doorknob is very CLD. The tumbler that was forgotten in the room still had the ice cubes that our classmate put in, so that should give you a view at how cold the room was now. I don't know what to do. My parents are being asked for a video call next week before giving my diploma. I'm scared at the shoot we'll have to do. TLDR, we were in charge as cleaners on the day before COVID-19 canceled the classes and forgot to turn off the aircon. Teacher opened the door and was blasted by harsh winter air on a summer. Note: I am writing this on my way to the store, as such it's not the best. Will edit when I get home. First off, this one doesn't have very big consequences as opposed to a lot of the others, but it was still something that to this day makes me laugh. It was around November in Canada and it was snowing hard. As such, the teachers all thought it would be a good idea to get almost all of us, about 400 or so, grades kindergarten through 6 kids together in the gymnasium to sing Christmas carols together since it was way too cold to go outside. So the first few songs come on the projector and everything goes fine. We're singing, enjoying ourselves while the musical teacher plays on the keyboard. After about maybe 4 songs or so, the next song comes up, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Now for anybody who knows the song growing up, there is some added lyrics we would always add. For example, like the lyric would say had a very shiny nose, we would all like to add like a light bulb right after. Anyways, the teacher starts playing and we start singing the song. After about maybe 2 to 3 lines she stops and told us we have to sing it correctly and to not sing the added bits. Now not one of us liked this at all. We had been so used to singing it our way. Came malicious compliance. The teacher sits back down and starts playing. Every child in the audience starts singing the song. However, when the extra lyrics were supposed to happen, we would whisper them. Now I don't know if you ever heard about 400 students whispering at once. It's very easy to be heard. The second the first line was done, the teacher stops for about a second, sighs, and allows us to continue on with our whispering extra lyrics. Moral of the story: don't tell young kids not to do something. This happened yesterday evening, and I couldn't think of a better place to post this. I run a small gaming store in India, and we've now starting to open up. It's been close to a week since we opened, and the customer flow is decent. Yesterday, I got a call from one of my customers, and he said that the game he bought for me doesn't work. Days Gone, PS4. Of course, no details were provided until I asked. He sent me a screenshot which showed the error. It said, the disc could not be read. Since it was a new game, I was surprised. I didn't ask him to clean the disc as that often makes things worse. I had a customer spit on a disc and clean it with his handkerchief. So, I asked him to come to the store. He bought his fat PS4 and I hooked it up and replicated the issue. After a couple of minutes of diagnosis, I did the obvious, I ejected the disc. And, the disc was inserted upside down. I'm not kidding. This guy had a bunch of other games on his console, so it wasn't his first time using it. Instead of trying to figure out how or why, I just put the disc in correctly and installed the game for him. Once it was done, I briefly ran the game, showed it to him, and then shut the PS4 down. He thanked me, and before leaving he initiated a conversation. This conversation was in Hindi, so I'm translating a bit. Cust, what's top? Me, huh? Cust, what is the top? Me, I don't follow? Cust, how do I know what is the top? Me, top what? Cust, pointing at the PS4, the top. Which one is it? And that's when it hit me. He did not insert the disc incorrectly. He had his entire PS4 upside down and inserted the disc correctly. After recovering from the shock, I explained how he could figure it out and also applied a piece of tape to mark the top. The guy left, and I wasn't sure whether I should laugh or be in awe of the guy. Before I begin, I just want to confirm that this is no "a stranger looked at me weirdly" story. I understand that these stories are not allowed. I am only saying this because from the start, this seems like that sort of story. This starts November 5, 2019, so about a year ago. I was walking down the street in a town I will not disclose in England. Along the street, I noticed a man walking on the other side. He had a bunny suit on and I decided that it didn't matter, he was probably a regular person. About 15 minutes later, he was still walking near me, but this time, he was staring right at me. I shrugged it off as just a weird person, but then it got weirder. I had been in town for an entire day, but he was still in the same place in proportion to me, the other side of the street, staring. I started to get worried, but again, I shrugged it off as a really weird person. It got weirder. He started following me down the street towards my house. I took a turn into a less crowded area and he still followed me. I knew then that he was stalking me. I ran to my house and locked the door behind me. I then looked out the window on the top floor, and there he was, standing outside. He went away after about half an hour, but it was the most terrifying half an hour of my entire life. I didn't think much of it, I thought that it was a dream. Recently, I heard a very troubling story on the news. It was about a kidnapper that had been arrested, a man that wore a bunny costume. I then knew that it was no dream. I am so worried but relieved, that I did not meet that man on that fateful day. I can't imagine what would have happened if we had met. So I'll just jump right into this with some background. At the time of this story I was working in a town half an hour away from home and I was working from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday to Friday. So the only days I had off were Saturday and Sunday, but normally Saturdays were used for food shopping, gardening and house cleaning, so the only day I really had free was Sunday. So cast. Me. TB, Twig Beard Me Neckbeard X. Mom, my wonderful mother. So TB and I had planned to meet in the city on the weekend to spend some time together since we hadn't had a chance to in literal months due to me working and him having exams. So he knew that I only had Sunday free due to what I previously explained above and originally said that was fine. Anyway, Friday night rolls around and I ask what time he'll be in the city as it's a 2-hour trip for me, so I need to plan ahead. Before continuing, I'd like to point out that the city was only 30 minutes for him by public transport since he didn't have a license despite being nearly 20. Me via text, hey, what time should we meet Sunday? I know shops don't open till like 10:30, so maybe we can meet around 11 and get lunch before shopping. TB, yeah, I don't know if I can be brother Sunday, it's too hard to catch the train and bus since the timetables are changed. Me, but can't you just use the transportation app to look at times? TB, yeah, but it's still too much work. Why can't you change your Saturday stuff to Sunday, then we can shop at 10 minutes from his parents' house, then we can come home and play some video games. Me, because I go shopping with my mom and help her garden and clean. You know she can't do that stuff by herself with her condition. My mom has an autoimmune disease that can cause her a lot of pain from doing too much physical work. She's doing a lot better now though with new medication. TB, well, I can't be bothered coming in Sunday. Why don't you drive down to me? Then you can watch me beat this boss on some game I can't remember, and then we can get Macca's or something. Me, because instead of driving an hour and catching a train is be driving 2 hours both ways and I need to save fuel for work. TB, well then I guess we're not meeting up then. Me, yeah, okay, it's your choice. I was pretty upset after this and basically ignored him for the rest of the day. He didn't really care though, as he would ignore me for a good few hours when he was gaming, which was any time his mother didn't force him out of the house. He also ignored me when I came down to visit him and would get aggressive with me if I distracted him and he died in a game. This was terrifying because despite him being a twig he was still bigger than my 160 centimeters petite self. My mom saw this and we went out for some morning tea the next morning before shopping, which I really enjoyed. I did end up breaking up with him a few weeks later because he didn't seem to want any kind of relationship anymore, just someone to have sex with. This lady, she came in to ask questions about linen bedding. Then our exchange took a weird turn. I think I have a coupon? She asks while staring directly into my eyes. Me, oh, okay. Do you? I don't know. Me, did you receive an email offer? I think so. Can you check for me? Me, no, but if you have one it will be in your inbox. Moments later, lady decides she has to go home to find it. Then calls the store to report that she swore she had a coupon, failing to realize she is pulling her routine on the same person. She comes back to the store the next day, Does not recognize me. L. Hi, are these on sale? Me, no, not this one. L. I think I have a coupon. What is this one? It says welcome to brand. Me, does it have a discount offer on it? Screams inside. L. Oh, I don't know. Me, go ahead and scroll and tell me what you find. OMG people, I cannot, I am so tired, please stop being dumb. Sorry in advance, I'm on mobile and for such a long post. DL, doctor at bottom. So, I've been stuck on audits due to the virus. I hate them, but at least I'm getting full-time hours still. So, I come into work around midnight and the B-shift person tells me that I've sold out and have no arrivals. Perfect, my favorite kind of night. The one thing she does mention is that there is an older man, who we will call Mr. Crazy, who keeps going in and out the front door every few minutes. Weird, but not the strangest thing you see in a hotel. Anyway, I'm a few hours in and sure enough every 15 minutes or so, Mr. Crazy and going in and out. Around 3 a.m., Mr. Crazy comes to the desk and says that he might need me to call 911 because he is having chest pains. I tell him to let me know if he decides he wants to go to the hospital. He continues his in and out walks over the course of the next half hour. On one of his trips I ask him how he is feeling. He seemed really confused why I would ask him that and says he is fine. 15 minutes late he comes to the desk and says I need to call 911 right away. I make the call and he wanders off. He returned to the lobby a few minutes later with his backpack. I have him sit down in one of the lobby chairs and I stay with him to wait for the ambulance. This is when Mr. Crazy starts to act. Well, crazy. As we are waiting he turns to me and says I hope the EMTs aren't a bunch of pricks. This caught me a little off guard and it took me a moment to reassure him that the EMTs are perfectly nice people. He begins to ramble about how you can trust them and how he needs a new life because he messed his up so bad. I thought that he might be having a stroke or something because he wasn't making much sense. So I see the ambulance pull up and the fire trucks. It's a smallish town and not a lot else happens at 3 a.m. The EMT walks in and looks at the guest. Hi, Mr. Crazy. He didn't seem happy to see him. I realized then, that Mr. Crazy was a local. So they put him on the stretcher and roll him out. About 5 minutes later, Mr. Crazy comes storming back into the hotel cursing like crazy. The EMT comes to talk to me and asks if I need him to call the police. I told them I was fine, and apologized for them having to come out to the hotel for nothing. It turns out that Mr. Crazy wanted them to drop him off at a gas station near the hospital where he told them he was going to walk the rest of the way. When they refused to be his personal taxi he got mad and got off the stretcher. I did some more research and it turns out he was a homeless man who got a local church to put up in the hotel for a few nights. He was likely trying to get to the gas station to buy drugs. Definitely the strangest audit I have had in a long time. DL, doctor, local man has me call an ambulance for him and then refuses to go with them because they won't drop him off at a random gas station. I work at a small-town coffee shop that has managed to adapt and stay busy during COVID-19 by utilizing a window for walk-up service. A regular problematic customer, let's call him TJ, is a typical middle-aged man riddled with toxic masculinity. He often makes female employees and customers uncomfortable with his comments. Lately he's been around a lot, being typical TJ. Today he came to our window and ordered a coffee. Cool, nothing out of the ordinary. A co-worker asked him if he would like to tip via our Square register. We normally don't verbally ask customers, but with the current pandemic we are not allowing customers to touch our iPad system. He proceeded to tell her to put 100, and reassured them he wanted to tip that much because he appreciates our hard work and effort and wants to chip in since our business has been a bit slower. Okay, I gave him that and almost have a change of heart about DJ. We both outwardly thank him and he goes on his way. I text my boss about this uncharacteristic interaction with TJ and through their end of the register system she was able to look at the transaction. They noticed that not only was the credit card he used not in his name, but in his boss's name, on their company card. Typical TJ. What a D-bag. This is one of the oldest of unresolved cases, to the extent that I'm recounting folktales more than police reports here. However, it's a fact that the grave exists in Alexandria, Virginia. She was a doe. No one knows who she was. Because it was so long ago, she will probably remain anonymous forever. She may have been Theodosia Burr Alston, the lost daughter of Aaron Burr. But I will recount what we know of her, the female stranger. Her grave bears the following inscription. To the memory of a female stranger, whose mortal sufferings terminated on the 14th day of October 1816. Age 23 years and 8 months. This stone is placed here by her disconsolate husband, in whose arms she sighed out her latest breath, and who under God did his utmost even to soothe the cold dead ear of death. How loved, how valued, once avails thee not. To whom related or by whom begot? A heap of dust alone remains of thee. 'Tis all thou art, and all the proud shall be. To whom gave all the prophets witness that through his name whosoever believeth in him shall receive remission of sins. Acts 10th chap. 43rd verse. The stone suggests she had both husband and children, but no one knows who she was. The grave suggests that the person who carved the stone knew her actual identity. It gives her exact age in not just years but months. So the gravestone carver knew who she was, and knew her birthday. Past that, we have nothing. There have been subsequent accounts that attempted to obtain truth for the unknown woman lying in St. Paul's, but no one has been able to turn up anything. There's been probably false, but no one's explicitly been able to deny it, suggestion she was Theodosia Burralston, who disappeared from a boat in 1813. That would make her the daughter of Aaron Burr, and one of the most infamous figures in history. However, there are also indications that she is not Theodosia Burralston, namely the account of the convent where the female stranger laid her last rest. We abstain from judgment. Sources: First time posting, currently a EMS dispatcher for a private ambulance company for 3 years now. We take some calls, however, they're usually seizures, psych, and falls. This one? Probably should have been psych, but unfortunately she wasn't the patient. This call happened in my first year, while I was pretty fresh and didn't understand the power of controlling a call. And #X200B. Me, okay, tell me exactly what happened. CLR, yeah, my mom fell in the other room, you know we have her locked in there right now, but yeah, she fell and I think she may have hit her head. Me, okay, are you with her now? CLR, well, you see, she has dementia, and we live in a new home, so she is locked in there. You see, we can't have her wandering because of the bears that are around here. Me, have you gone to check on her yet? CLR, no, I can't unlock her door because she will get out and the bears will get her. Me, can you please go check on the patient? CLR, yeah, I think she might have hit her head, it sounded like she hit the end table, that's what woke me up, but even our big dog, insert large dog brand, is afraid to go outside because there are bears here at this new house. Please send the ambulance, but make sure they get in and out quick because the bears will get them. Rinse and repeat for literally every one of the 10 questions involved with a fall. I was essentially working with a third-party caller as she flat out refused to unlock her mother from the room until the EMTs got there, let alone even go look at her. And #X200B. I kid you not, I heard way more about these bears than I ever got out of her regarding her fallen mother. While I may have wanted to bash my head into the desk repeatedly asking her the questions, now I can have a good belly laugh over it. From what I do remember though, Mom was transported alright, and no EMTs were mauled by the darn bears. I was reminded of this story from my childhood when I woke up this morning to find an empty milk jug in my fridge. I grew up in a larger-than-average family of 6, 4 kids, 2 parents. We were all huge milk drinkers and polishing off a gallon a day was not uncommon. Since we lived almost an hour away from most grocery stores, my mom would often buy 6 to 8 gallons a week and would store them in a fridge in the basement. Initially, it was my job to run downstairs and fetch a new gallon whenever we emptied the current jug. I was the eldest. But as my siblings got older, a new rule was implemented: he, or she, who emptied the jug would have to retrieve a new one. For the most part, this system worked. But one morning, one of my brothers was pouring himself a glass and he ran out. Not feeling like making the trip downstairs, he stealthily poured back some of his milk and put the nearly empty jug back in the fridge. My dad came along a little while later and started to put himself a glass but only got about a couple of tablespoons out of it. Of course, according to the letter of the law, he should make the trip downstairs. But Dad, being the supreme power of all household rules, demanded to know who had the milk last. All of us pointed to the offending brother, who tried to mount the defense that since the jug wasn't technically empty when he finished pouring his drink, he shouldn't have to make the trip. No dice. He was sent to the basement, and from that day forward, a jug with a little bit left in it was considered empty and the last user of the jug was responsible for fetching a refill, although we all still tried to circumvent it from time to time. So I'm using phone and I'm not English speaker, so there might be mistakes in it, and to know if it counts as malicious compliance. But here we go now to the story. So I was 11-year-old when that happened. There were a bunch of kids who forced me to let them plagiarize and type down same answers as me. They always plagiarized and I was their main target. They were always looking at my paper during exam and were cheating, so once teachers saw them and thought I was cooperating with them and helping them to plagiarize and I got into trouble. It was detention or thing like that, but I don't remember, but I never had gotten in trouble before, and it really annoyed me. So during last and important exam I sat down right next to them and this time they forced me to let them plagiarize no matter what or they will get me into trouble. So I said, of course plagiarize as much as you guys want, but I had plan. So those kids had perfect score from plagiarizing and I knew how to ruin it. I typed all wrong answers and after they plagiarized and gave their paper to teachers, I cleaned all my answers and wrote new ones, and then next day when we got answers they told teacher to not to tell anyone in class their grades. After summer holidays started and we finally got our grades, I had max grade and they barely had 8 maxes 10, which was bad for them because their parents were like, my child is perfect and have max grades and things like that, and they freaked out after they saw grades of their perfect child. I work at a gas station, alone, and we sell newspapers from varying local brands. A woman comes up to the counter and before I'm about to check her out, she claims that I scanned a newspaper twice, when in reality I did it once. On every day except Sunday, we sell this particular brand of newspaper for $3, and it's double on Sundays. I had to call my manager since he was not at the store just to confirm. The register rang it up for $6 since it was a Sunday. She claimed the price tag said $3, on the rack, not the paper itself, and even after getting confirmation that it was $6, she wanted me to sell it to her for $3, and I said I could not do that because I will get in trouble. Eventually she just stormed off and I cancelled the other item, a lighter, from her order, and she left with nothing. This is partially also the fault of the store, I would say, since there is no indication that the Sunday price is different. No ma'am, I'm not of LA. I posted this over in entitled people and was told that it may also belong in this sub. I'm new to this, English is my only language, and I'm on mobile. This happened to me yesterday when I was at work at my security job. No ma'am, I'm not of LA. I'm new to this, so I hope I do this right. Story: okay, this just happened to me yesterday. I work as security at one of our gated communities here in Florida on the beach. My duties include watching over the pool via camera, answering the phone and checking visitors and contractors into the community. Our uniforms consist of black or gray pants, and white shirts, but I wear gray shirts because I'm the supervisor. There is nothing on my uniform that says valet. Well, yesterday I was in my office doing my work and this lady comes in, and while I'm getting her information so I can make her permit, she says, okay, so you get my permit, and then you park the car? I correct her and say, no ma'am, I'm not a valet, I'm security. I only need to make you a permit and once you get it you can park your car. And then I explain where to park. She then asks me why I can't park it for her and her friend that she was there to visit told her that I wasn't a valet and that we didn't have valet parking here. This lady then stated that I should do my job and park her car. I then told her that it's not my job and that she needed to move her car as a line was backed up. She got in her car and sped off and almost hit someone, so she ended up being asked to leave. Some people are just so ignorant and entitled, it's just scary. At the thrift store I worked at, we had this one woman who was always friendly to me, always nice, etc. However, according to management, she was a common shoplifter and I was told to keep an eye on her. We'll call her Paula. One night, I was facing and doing recovery and go backs and I heard the phone at the register ring. It was my assistant manager, AM. AM told me that she had caught Paula, on camera, slipping a blouse into her purse and I had to keep my eye on her while she, AM, went to the bathroom. Okay, sure. So I watched Paula while maintaining my distance and conversing with her when she wanted to ask me something. Then, I had to back up my co-worker at the register as there was a line, so I couldn't keep my eye on her anymore. And #X200B. Then, Paula comes up to my register and AM is still using the bathroom, so I internally panicked a little. I didn't want to let the woman out of my sight, so I stalled for time by deliberately logging into my register with the wrong username and password and passing it off as a computer error. I did this several times and Paula acted quite normally. I was about to give up because I got tired of entering my incorrect login and password when I see AM coming right beside me, and then I let her take over. And #X200B. AM then confronts Paula over the blouse and her purse, complete with a printed out image of her putting the stuff in her purse, and the two exchange pleasantries with Paula saying that she's not afraid of the cops and AM calling her out for stealing from a thrift store and permanently banning Paula from setting foot inside the store. I'm in an MLM group on Facebook that posts ridiculous things that MLM people say and do online. Today I saw a post from a woman using her young, overweight daughter to showcase their kid's weight loss diet supplement, which I'm sure is trash. Everyone was saying that the mother was awful for outing her daughter, and I agreed. I commented that I resented that the mother was just feeding her kid some diet powder junk instead of assessing their lifestyle choices and trying to lose weight that way. My comment was really thoughtful and I thought it was compassionate. Someone replied to me and said some kids are just fat and that's not a bad thing, we need to stop the rampant fat phobia. Okay, sorry, but maybe like 5/100ths fat kids are naturally just fat. Kids should not be fat. It's likely their parents' fault and that's horrible and they need to fix it. Call me a jerk, call me fat-phobic, but children should not suffer in this way. I will never bend on that stance. They can become adults and damage their bodies all on their own someday, but no child should be as big as the one in the post. Kids should be able to run and play and enjoy their youth. When I worked for a thrift store, one of my responsibilities was to check customers in and out of the dressing rooms and they were only allowed to take an X amount of items, nothing more than that amount. We had to count the number of items and their tags going in and out. Most customers are cool with this. That day, I encountered a regular shoplifter I'll call Ethel. Ethel, as usual, was perusing the aisles and going through various items of clothing. Per management, we are told to keep our eyes on these individuals and make sure we take note of anything suspicious. By seeing Ethel in the store, alarm bells were already going off in my head and I alerted management and my fellow co-workers of her presence. And #X200B. During my fitting room stint, I saw that Ethel wanted a room to try on her items, so I went to count her items and it turns out that she was over the maximum limit by 2 articles of clothing. Some or all of those clothes were brand new with tags or were from fancy clothing companies. I explained this to Ethel, only for her to tell me that she had bought the clothes yesterday and was just going to try them on with the other stuff. I instinctively thought that was a load of bull. I had worked the day before and hadn't seen her there and all the clothes she had were tagged and she had been hanging out near the new tag section of the store. Most customers would let staff know that any extra items they were bringing in were theirs and wanted to match. Sensing red flags, I call over my awesome supervisor, Az for short. Az comes over and I explain the situation to him. Ethel then tells Az what she had told me. She bought some of the clothes yesterday and wanted to try them on with other clothes. Az then tells her that he had worked yesterday as well and had not seen her at all. I left to do some other assigned tasks as Az was dealing with Ethel. And #X200B. Later on, Ethel goes to talk to Az's supervisor, who I will call AS2. AS2 hears her out and explains the store policy and tells her that Az was merely doing his job. Ethel got frustrated and walked over to the front of the store and started going through a pile of clothing, and then promptly took said pile of clothing, most of it designer stuff and brand new tags, and booked it out of the store. According to management, she is no longer welcome in the store. Bartender at a local pizza joint. My buddy came in after a long day dealing with his 2 sick little girls. He tells me a story from today about the littlest. She's screaming for him from the bathroom. She states she's been waiting for 60 years for him. All she wanted was a cheese pizza from our place. Since they were sick, he went with something more appropriate for upset stomachs. But you can guarantee I got him a gift certificate for a cheese pizza for her when she's better. Nice to have good customers to even out the bad ones, lol. I worked in housekeeping in a hotel for months up until this past week. I'm now 35 weeks pregnant. I was scheduled to work 5+ days a week, with 20+ rooms to myself. I came into work recently, because I was on the schedule, and I could barely walk. I couldn't bend my back and my ankles were hugely swollen. I had been in L&D the night before to stop contractions. We didn't have many rooms, but 5 housekeepers in-house. Everyone was almost begging my manager to send me home, as we had too many housekeepers for the amount of rooms. Now, I'm huge at this point in pregnancy. I can't bend too far forward in general. My manager and I, discussed a couple weeks ago that she didn't want me cleaning bathtubs, so I was to have another housekeeper come clean my bathtubs. No biggie, I was fine with that. Well, the day before I quit I had went to find another HK to help with a bathtub. Said manager stopped us in the hall and asked what we were doing socializing on the clock. We explained that she was going to clean a bathtub for me and would go right back to her rooms. She yelled at me and said that if I can't do my job, I need to quit so that she can hire someone who's willing to work. I explained that it wasn't that I wasn't willing to work, rather that's one small task that I myself struggle with accomplishing. She didn't care. She continued yelling at me. Now, I've always hated being yelled at, so I spent the rest of my shift crying while cleaning my rooms. I got home from work, still crying. My boyfriend became extremely upset as I told him what had happened. We decided that it's in the best interest of our child that I just be done, as it's a lot of emotional trouble as well as physical. So I gave my manager her wish, and I went in and handed in my scrubs and quit. She seemed sympathetic, said she understood, was sad to see me go, and for me to come talk to her after I was released from maternity leave. Fast forward to today, another HK at said hotel was talking to this manager, while recording the conversation to send to me. She asked if I would be back after baby. The manager told her that I was lazy and a crybaby so she would never consider hiring me back. I'm glad I quit. I feel like I dodged a bullet. I'm not sure that I'll ever be able to convince myself to work in housekeeping again. My girlfriend have a running joke where I'm really disorganized, because I am. So here's today's contribution to that. A week or two ago I was making oven-baked fish as well as a stir-fry that included onions. We have 2 containers of previously chopped veggies in the fridge, both include lemons, but one also includes onions. I took them all out, made the meal but was left over with 2 small pieces of lemon. I forgot what container they had been in but smelled them, figuring that if they had been in the onion container they'd smell like onion. I put them back in the fridge in the container that originally didn't include any onion and called it a day. Had a great dinner. This morning my girlfriend runs to the bathroom gagging and throwing up. She'd made lemon tea and squeezed both these pieces into her mug. She'd also cut some pieces and put it in. She has a ritual where she chugs the entire thing each morning. She'd instead chugged what tasted like an entire mug of sour plus the potency of a raw onion. I'll see myself to the doghouse guys. TLDR, don't mix fruit/vegetable leftovers into the same containers. So I work at a small office for a construction company. I have one coworker that is a grandma and due to some parental issues, she is now taking care of her 2 youngest granddaughters, ages 7 and 8. She doesn't really have money so she can't pay for a babysitter to watch the girls as she's working her 8 to 5 job. There is also the issue of COVID-19 right now, so having a stranger come into your house for long periods of time and be around kids is not really a good idea. Luckily, for her, the boss is okay with the girls being in the office as long as they don't bother anyone from working and be quiet. Over the time, I've slowly went from being grandma's co-worker to being a babysitter. This is how it starts. The girls did that at first, until one of their tablets broke down and stopped working. Then, they would fight over the other tablet and would whine and tattle to the closest adult there, usually me. So to stop this I brought my tablet just so that they could watch Disney+. It worked, until my tablet ran out of power. Then, whoever had that tablet would start to come up to me and say I'm bored. They'd bring a backpack full of colors, coloring books, toys, etc. so I know that they aren't bored, they just want a tablet. I would then have to list off things for them to do, so that I could go back to work. After a while, I've learned how my coworker has been parenting them and when the girls do something, then I just follow what my coworker tells them to do. For example, the girls have a towel and toothbrushes and toothpaste in the girls' bathroom. They are told that they have to wash their face, hands, and teeth after eating lunch. The girls would try to get away with this and go straight back to the tablets after eating, so I would have to remind them as to subtly tell them that they can't disobey their grandma. Now, I just have to raise an eyebrow and they listen. I really was fed up with all of this, especially when my coworker and I would usually be the only ones in the office, but I didn't really say anything because I know that my coworker can't really do anything to keep them home and they are kids who need to be loud and run around and all that. But, I finally realized how much my coworker was taking advantage of me when she said, "Wow. You're the cheapest babysitter. All I have to do is just pay for your lunch." She not only said this straight to my face, but also in front of the girls who now believe that I am their babysitter. Now if there are any problems, from an untied shoe to a fight over who can get what, the girls go to me first before their grandma. This weekend's been a hitter, and the weather's been nice enough that all the patio tables fill up immediately. An out-of-town four-top with really crabby attitudes were given a 45-minute wait, and they were annoyed that some tables were closed to allow for social distancing. We offered them a seat inside, and they blew up, "No, this is America." They asked to use the bathroom, and when we told them walking through the restaurant required them to wear a mask, they got even madder and left. Good riddance. Where do all these people eventually go? I feel so bad for the staff at the restaurants where they're tolerated. Hello, little long rant here. We're open again but with all these restrictions. They're saying we can have 100% capacity but still keep 6 feet distance, which is impossible, so we just left that this table is unavailable on every other one of our tables to do our best with social distancing. It's a big restaurant so it works out okay. We're doing the face masks, individual salt and pepper packets and cleaning literally everything after each customer, which is a pain. I'm sure everyone can agree. Menus, pens, credit card booklets, tables, chairs, I mean everything. Anyway, I served a party of 10 college kids today, all separate tickets. I don't understand why. It was super busy and I think I'm a decent server. Usually I can deal with big parties and small tables. We have to make our own drinks, which I can handle too. But these people they put the booklets on the table where they're not accessible, or they all put their elbows or phones on top of them. Do you want to pay or not? Do I need to pull out from under you and your stuff? Then having to swipe 10 debit cards, some of which had cash, and I had to go back and ask if the cash was towards the ticket and do the rest card? I ask and they all just stare at me blankly. The kicker? They were cards that had Venmo written all over them. Obviously they know what this app is for, right? Why do you make this harder for everyone? Okay, number 2, I ask if anyone needs anything else. No. Then the can I get a spoon? I go bring the spoon. Can I get some more salt? I go get the damn salt. Oh, can we have more napkins? You know what I'm getting at, right? Moving on. Not even an hour later I get a party of 12. Is this all going to be one or separate tickets? Oh honey, it's gonna be a mess. It's all gonna be separate, but can we tell you at the end? No, please tell me now. All their orders had all these modifications, which is fine, but then when they get this attitude. Can I get extra chicken instead of mushrooms? Why do I have to pay extra if I don't like something? Because you don't get an extra steak at the steakhouse when you don't want the damn baked potato, do you? Or the can I get her the chicken nuggets and fries kids meal, but instead of nuggets can she get grilled chicken with zucchini and rice? Oh yeah, we have a dish just like that with more vegetables for 11, but no, you want to get that for 4. People don't understand, or probably don't know, cooks fillet and weigh all the meats to make the portions for dishes. They probably think we just have random raw chicken and steaks we can just throw in for whenever they're being a pain in the ass. My stepbrothers live with their mom in the middle of California, while we, mom, stepdad, sister, and myself, live in northern Nevada. When COVID-19 started getting bad, my stepdad had to stop driving down to see his boys, which really sucked for him, and I'll give him that. However, his sons have the mental capacity of a walnut. We went shooting today to celebrate with him, but while out, the older of the two, 19M, started acting like an idiot with a fully loaded AR-15, including unsafe handling procedures, pointing the barrel at me while loaded, and attempting to walk over uneven ground in old tennis shoes. While firing the 7th or 8th round in his turn, he decides to drop to a knee, thinking it would be cool, only to drop the rifle. Next, younger of the two, 15M, decides it's a funny idea to run forward, pick up the rifle, and start emptying the clip while standing over his brother. After the 12 rounds were gone, they both came back to us at the truck about 25 feet back thinking they were hot shoot. My temper was already short, given that other dumb shoot has happened over the last few weeks with them, and starting yelling, while taking the rifle away. Now, my stepdad had stepped away to have a smoke and take a leak, so he saw none of this. Finally, he comes back right as I haul off and punch the older one in the face for some very dumb comments about how he doesn't care about gun safety when we're alone like this, and that he needs to be prepared for the violent revolution coming to the US this year or early next year. Found myself looking at the younger one, asking his opinion while the other rolled in the dirt clutching his cheek. Younger decides to side with his brother about gun safety not mattering at the moment, so I smack him upside the back of the head. Stepdad's yelling, oldest has a split cheek from the punch that's now coated in dirt, and the youngest is now getting ready for a fight. Best part? We all rode in the same truck, and I had to ride back with them. While my stepdad did agree that his boys were making poor choices, he's furious I hit both of them on Father's Day. DL, doctor, stepbrothers are idiots with guns and get both hit, in front of their father by me on Father's Day. I am 14. I am a certified referee in my state. I know the rules as I've played by them my whole life along with taking the officiating classes. At our park district, no headers for ages below 11. But in U12, it is up to the referee's discretion. So if it's a small tap it's okay. That is exactly what happens. So the coach behind me screams at the top of his lungs there are no headers in U12 5 to 16 times. I ignore him. Though I could eject him. It was last game of the season and I didn't care. After a bit of yelling, he says fine, "Go duck yourself then," which I turn and tell at him for saying in front of you 11 kids. I wish I sent him away or ended the match. Sadly I didn't do much and my partner is a long-time referee, officiated my matches as I grew up, and he is deaf. So he has no idea what happened. The person who runs Park District in my area has been informed and is taking action. Rang up a woman for a medication for her child. Insurance covered it, so it was a quick interaction. I go about my shift and 30 minutes later she returns. I greet her and ask if everything was okay because she was just there, and she starts screaming at me because we gave her the wrong medication. I try to explain that was what was ready and what was prescribed, but if she lets me know the right medication I can refill it. She is still screaming that she wants to return it. It's a mixed medication, and I tell her okay just this once and that I can refill the right medication. She then starts scolding me saying how the right medication is never enough, and just doesn't understand me telling her that she needs to see her kid's doctor for a new prescription with a higher quantity dispensed. It should be obvious that we can't just give more. I ring her up and then per my pharmacist's request I ask her to just double-check medications when she gets them because we can't do returns anymore. Again, mixed medication we lost, and she yells at me again saying that it's my job to give her the right medication. I try to say that we serve hundreds of people a day and we filled what the doctor prescribed. Did she not pay attention during that appointment? She then proceeds to call me stupid, and idiot, and to F it K myself in front of her kids. Man, I hate the people that come to my pharmacy sometimes.